They were hairy animals, tree dwellers with a long tail and pointed ears, but the ladies preferred their companions without hair, so they chose the least hairy for mates. And that's how our ancestors lost their hair. So imagined Charles Darwin more than a century ago as he pondered the question of our origin. We were made, said Darwin, not in the image of God, but in the likeness of apes. London's Natural History Museum pays homage to Darwin in its Human Origins exhibit. The museum was first built to display the wonders of creation, but today it's a monument to evolution.
This is the fossilized skull of an Australopithecine called OH5.
Dr. Chris Stringer, a paleoanthropologist at the museum, is convinced that Darwin was right.
We think that humans separated from apes about 5 million years ago, although there is not fossil evidence of that period of separation. From about 4 million years ago, we have evidence of these creatures called Australopithecines. And these creatures were ape-like in many ways, but they did walk upright, and certainly in their teeth, for example, they show human features.
The famous Lucy is thought to be the earliest link in the tree of evolution. But there's strong disagreement among the experts. Some claim Lucy and other Australopithecines are just extinct apes. Paleoanthropologist Dr. Sigrid Hartwig Scherer has studied the fossils closely. She concludes that they can all be classified as either extinct types of apes or true humans.
These Australopithecines belong to one basic type and radiated into different niches, and so they could develop these very specialized things like the big molars and the very small front teeth and a very dished face. I don't think they are the precursors of humans.
Dr. Marvin Lubenow is Professor Emeritus at Christian Heritage College in San Diego. He's made a lifetime study of the ape men, and he's convinced that in the quest to find human ancestors, the fragmentary fossil evidence has been misinterpreted.
The evolutionists believe that you and I evolved from an ancestor of the chimpanzee. Now, the chimpanzees are not normally bipedal. They have relatively small brains, and they are not able to make tools with their hands. So the evolutionist has to somehow find an animal that has at least the latent capacity to make tools, to walk erect, and a relatively large brain. The early evidence for the Australopithecines is strong in that they are an extinct primate. The evidence that they are related to us is non-existent. Just being able to find animals that they claim may have walked erect does not prove that we evolved from them.
Marvin Lubenow believes ape-like creatures never changed into people. God created apes as apes and humans as humans. Science journalist Richard Milton, in his book Exploding the Myths of Darwinism, agrees with creationists that the fossils are either apes or true humans dressed up as ape men.
Darwinists say that the missing link is Australopithecus. The famous Lucy skeleton is the best known example of Australopithecus. In fact, Lucy has been restored in museums around the world to look like a human ancestor. She's usually given a sort of an ape-like face and a human-like body with human hands, human feet. The truth is that Lucy's bones are actually those of an extinct arboreal ape. The hands and feet are those of a tree-dwelling creature, a creature that may have been able to come out of the trees occasionally, but certainly didn't spend the majority of its time walking upright. And many anthropologists who've examined Australopithecus remains have come to the conclusion that it's nothing more than an extinct ape. It's only Darwinists who insist that Australopithecus is a human ancestor. And I think it's a pity schoolchildren today are told so firmly and so convincingly that Australopithecus is their ancestor when there is virtually no evidence to support that.
A controversial Hall of Fame portrays our supposed evolutionary heritage of various ape men and one ape woman. But our ape man ancestors look more like a rogues gallery, plagued by a history of misidentification of fragmentary fossil evidence, with ape men reconstructed from the remains of apes, pigs, and even a dolphin. The most notorious ape man, Piltdown Man, was hailed as the first Englishman for 40 years until it was recognized to be a fraud. The skull of a human combined with the jaw of an orangutan, artificially colored with its teeth filed down.
As well as arguments over interpretation, there have, of course, also been examples, even worse examples. There was the case of the early American ape man, which turned out to be an extinct peccary or pig-like creature. So the whole history of the missing link really has been a rather sorry history as far as science is concerned. It's been a mixture of fraud, a mixture of error, a mixture of misinterpretation.
There are things which don't fit easily. It depends which characters you want to pick as being your marker of humanity or of being ape-like. So it's not a simple question.
The story of human evolution, with its gallery of disputed ape men, is preached from the pulpit, popularized in news headlines, and taught as fact in schools and museums.
This is the fossilized skull of an Australopithecus called OH5.
The fossils of our supposed human ancestors, sometimes only tiny bits and pieces of bone and teeth, leave a lot to the imagination. There's disagreement among experts over what differentiates a fossil ape from a human ancestor. Interpretation of the evidence depends a lot on which worldview you accept, creation or evolution. Marvin Lubenow believes ape-like creatures never changed into people. God created apes as apes and humans as humans.
This whole question stems from a reductionist and a humanistic attitude toward humans. The idea that humans are just animals that walk erect, have a large brain, and make tools. And the main point that the Bible emphasizes, as far as you and I are concerned as humans, is that we are made in the image of God.
Most evolutionists deny the possibility of supernatural intervention in our lives. We're just naked apes. No destiny, no purpose. No more than human animals without soul or spirit.
The key aspect of Darwinism, as far as we're concerned, is the question, where did we come from? Darwin's answer is that we and modern apes have evolved from some common ape-like ancestor millions of years in the past. Well, this conclusion really isn't borne out by the evidence. What's happened is that the theory has required a missing link, and workers in the field have, over the past 100 years, provided lots of missing links, or have offered us lots of skeletons as being missing links. What's happened in every case is that once the headlines have died down after the announcement of the discovery, serious researchers have investigated the finds, and they've found that either the fossil in question was an extinct ape or it was an extinct human.
I think the view that you can divide the fossil record neatly into humans and non-humans, and all the things, Australopithecines and habilis are actually basically funny kinds of apes, and all of the people later, like Erectus and Neanderthals, are basically funny kinds of modern humans. I don't think that works when you get to something like, say, Homo habilis. A habilis has a brain size that's greater than that of any ape, any fossil ape we have as well. And certainly in the dentition, habilis was human.
Homo habilis came to fame with the discovery by Richard Leakey of a controversial skull named 1470 that made headlines as the world's oldest man. He was called Handyman because he was believed to be handy with tools, and he's the next supposed ape man. He's said to resemble a chimpanzee with a brain the size of a gorilla.
It is the organization of the brain, not the size per se, that matters. It's the way the brain is wired that makes it human. If you had a gorilla brain and had some kind of a machine that you could blow it up 4 times to 1,600 cubic centimeters, you wouldn't have a human brain. You'd have just a king-size gorilla brain. You'd be just as dumb as the gorilla is now.
So this is 1470. It indeed has a large brain size, but there are also features in the face and other features which just remind very much to some Australopithecine features. It's just a variety, maybe, of an Australopithecine with a big brain and a typical Australopithecine face.
At University College London, a research group led by Dutch anatomist Dr. Fred Spoor found something unexpected.
What the organobalance tells us is that this creature was perhaps even less bipedal than Australopithecines. And that's obviously very controversial.
CAT scans of the inner ear show that the semicircular canals, which determine balance and locomotion, are more like those of baboons than of humans.
The organobalance is situated somewhere here in the side. This is your ear opening. And if you look at the organobalance, then a very prominent bit of it are these 3 semicircular canals. And those turn out to be quite different in dimensions in humans than in other primates.
It's claimed that Homo habilis walked more erect than his supposed evolutionary ancestors, the Australopithecines, like the famous Lucy.
What you call Homo habilis, the kind of often seen as a kind of intermediate species between the Australopithecines and Homo erectus. And that was actually a surprise what we found there, because what we found in the size of the semicircular canals and the whole structure of the inner ear, it wasn't intermediate at all between what we saw in Homo erectus and the Australopithecines. Interestingly enough, I got support from other findings in East Africa. They found that their limb bones are less adapted for bipedalism, for walking on 2 legs, and are more ape-like than Australopithecines, than, for instance, Lucy. It was actually less evolved, you can say, in the direction of what you see in humans than what you see in Australopithecines. That's not what you would expect if you want to put it all nicely on one line. The traditional view of that's human evolution kind of evolved in one line with us at the end.
So is Homo habilis truly an ancestor? Many experts agree that this ape man is actually a mixture of bones from many different species.
I finally decided Homo habilis was made up of at least 2, if not more, different groups that do not belong together. It was an assemblage of several different types of animals put together and made into one. Homo habilis is a mess. And along with that goes the main transition from the Australopithecines to Homo erectus and modern humans.
Just because we say habilis is not a human ancestor, maybe, as I would say for Neanderthals as well, it doesn't mean that makes them apes.
I guess a majority of researchers now feels that what we used to call Homo habilis is not a single species, but is a kind of waste bin of various fossils that are grouped together and kind of intermediate between Australopithecines and Homo erectus, and let's call it all one name, and we don't know. But more and more people recognize it's at least 2 species, maybe even more.
Yes, habilis is a problem taxon. I think there are at least 2 species represented. And I think we haven't any longer got the clear-cut progression from habilis to erectus.
So where is the transition? According to the evolutionist scheme, archaic humans descended from Homo erectus, upright man, the next supposed ape man.
The appearance of real humans in the fossil record, that comes with the species Homo erectus. And this creature had a large brain. It was definitely a good stone tool maker. There's the beginnings of evidence of hunting in the fossil record, and its skeleton was much more human in proportions.
Homo erectus is truly human. All of the things that we could expect of the archaeological record to show humanity have been found. Stone tools in association, at about half of the sites. The controlled use of fire in about 1/10 of the sites. Burial in some of the Australian sites.